if I
Here we go. Okay, finishing up what we've left undone in chapter 7 workbook, we finished through exercise 10. So the last page is 11 through 20. And I noticed that most of these exercises are not verses from scripture, but they're made up exercises. So they're always a little more difficult because you don't have the help from the verses that we learned. What I'd like to do for the sake of saving time is to walk these through with you and for you. Maybe I'll do most of them myself, and I'll explain as I go. Unless you have an objection, or if you have a question and you want to stop on one of these and explore it a little more. Okay, but let's read it together for the practice of reading. Number 11. Exousion eke huios to anthropous aphianai. I think that, yeah, see, that's not a diphthong, that iota epsilon, because the second letter doesn't end with either an iota or an upsilon. So those are single letter syllables.
iota and epsilon.
Yeah.
Interrupt a second.
Sure.
The last exercise I have is 7.
Oh,
I
really?
missed 2 weeks.
Okay. We have an extra copy of.
I have the exercise book.
Okay.
What page are you on in there?
18.
Page 18, yes. I think we.
I saw 8 there, but
Did you pick it up?
Do you not
I
have
have-
copies of its answers? Or
You don't have a copy of the answer?
I have, you
I
had
have
8
one, you can
over
have
there?
it.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Is that what you're looking
Yeah.
for, Ed? The answers to 7, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
we're on.
we're not going to get to that until after we read chapter 8. So
Oh, no, that's what we're doing now.
That's what we're
I think
doing
he was
now.
saying that maybe there wasn't enough of these, but if Dad's got one, good. I'll just rattle off that. Not a big deal.
yeah, it's online too.
Okay.
I've scanned it all up on. the
Well, you
web.
Well, you
grabbed,
have
you
already.
grabbed the chapter 8 exercise handout, right?
Yes, I
Okay.
did.
Okay, awesome.
Oh.
I'll see what you got. All right, we're good.
Okay,
Thank you.
back to
Yeah.
that word aphianai. It's a 4-syllable word. Means to forgive. It's an infinitive, by the way.
Alphianai.
Yeah, do you see that?
Now, why is it not a diphthong?
Because the second letter is not an iota or upsilon. That's what it has to be to qualify as a diphthong.
Oh, yeah,
To
right.
be
right. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Athenai, it would be epsilon iota, right?
That's
It would
right.
be
Yeah,
athenai,
yeah,
that's
right.
a diphthong.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's not a diphthong. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Hamartias. last word.
Yes.
Harmatia. So is that a breathe?
Is what? A
So
breathing?
that's a rough.
It
breathing?
is a rough breathing, yes. It means sin. So it's actually plural.
Yes.
Okay. Looking for the subject first. Where is it?
Son.
Did you get the page?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's
Sun is-
Huios, right?
Huios,
huios,
yes.
yeah.
So that's our subject, the son, and keep the two anthropu together with it, the son of man. That's a genitive of the genitive singular masculine of the article.
Okay.
Huios tu anthropu. That's Jesus' favorite name for himself. And you'll see that frequently in the Gospels. And then the verb eke, he has, the Son of Man has authority, exousion, to forgive,
This
hamartios.
is accusative.
Yeah,
Right.
now, hamartios is accusative plural feminine. So sins, to forgive sins.
Okay.
Clear enough?
The Son of Man has authority to forgive sins.
That's right. That word exousion is sometimes translated power, but the idea is more authority in this verse. So, are you okay?
Yeah, the rough breathing
Yeah.
is a direction, is a shape of a C, direction.
That's correct.
Okay,
Now you see the smooth breathing on the theanon.
yes. I can't see that difference real easily. I'm just,
It's because of
I'm fixing my
eyesight?
card. Yeah, I'm fixing my card here.
Okay,
Well, it's a really challenging font, let's face
yeah.
it.
Okay, next one, 12.
I
This
I
is-
had a quick question about that one,
Sure.
actually.
Sure.
Maybe this is, and it's been a bit, so maybe there's something that we did cover and I forgot. Maybe this will be something we'll cover in the future. Is there a pattern to make sure we have the right object with the infinitive and that right? Because we have we would translate it, right? The Son of Man has the power to forgive sins, right? So we have
Yes.
the direct object after the verb in the English, right? And then we have the infinitive, and then we
Yes.
have the object of the infinitive after the infinitive.
Right, but now we
Is that
haven't
always true in
studied
Greek?
Infinitives, and we won't get to it for a long time.
Okay.
You're right, hamartias is the subject of the infinitive to forgive. But it really shouldn't give you any problem in this exercise
object.
because
You mean the object?
Object, yeah. Sorry.
You said subject.
Yeah,
It's okay.
I meant object.
yeah, object of the infinitive.
Okay,
Um,
so,
So it's in the word order that we're accustomed to, so.
Okay.
But infinitives, that's toward the end of the book.
Got it.
We're not going to be studying them for quite a while.
Okay, we'll
Okay.
get there.
Number 12, reading together. Hey agape
agape
gar
gar
to
to
thou didaske
Didaske,
tain
tain
exousion to kuriou.
Kuriou.
No,
Sorry.
kuriou.
Yeah,
Kuriou.
sorry, I thought I missed that
Yeah.
for new.
Where's our subject?
Hey, agape?
Right. It's a feminine article, nominative singular feminine of the article. The love. Now, what do we do with that for? That gar.
Post positive.
That's correct. So it's first. For the love of God. By the way, gar is a conjunction. Conjunction usually joins two parts of a sentence or two words sometimes, but this is a continuation of the verse before. Well, no, wait a minute. This is a made-up sentence. But for the love of God, that's
yeah,
two is genitive singular masculine. So of, and we don't translate the article with God or with any proper noun in English. The love of God teaches the authority,
yeah, this is weird, isn't it? Oh, the heart?
the authority of the Lord.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm sorry.
this is a case where I believe exousion could be translated power, teaches the power of the Lord, but it's a made-up sentence, so you can't be real definite about that. Okay with that one?
Yeah.
Number 13. Reading together. I archai
archai
to
to
Israel,
Israel.
uk
Epis.
excuse me, epistusan,
Epistusan.
hati Jesus mise tas hamartias.
Oh,
I archai is the nominative plural feminine of arche, and it's plural. So the rulers,
that's the subject.
the rulers of Israel, to Israel of Israel. Now, uk means not. It could be uk or uk. depending on the next word. Since the next word begins with an epsilon, you put the K in there, the kappa, just for the sake of pronunciation. If the next word began with a consonant, you would use oo. Remember that?
Uh-huh.
And if the next word began with a vowel plus a rough breathing, then you use ook, a key instead of a kappa. Okay. The rulers of Israel not believed, or we would say did not believe.
So I'm sorry. Archai, that is nominative.
Nominative, plural,
Plural.
feminine.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
The clue,
Right.
best clue is
Right.
the article.
Oi, I. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah, that article.
Mounts makes a comment in there somewhere, and the article is our friend because it tells us more clearly than the noun does what or how to parse it. The rulers of Israel did not believe. Hati is that. That's a conjunction that introduces a dependent clause. So the part of the sentence that occurs after Hati is not the main sentence, it's a dependent clause. That Jesus hates tas hamartias. What does he hate?
Sins.
Right. And since sin, it can be considered a generic, not generic,
That's accusative.
abstract noun, you don't need to translate the article in this case.
Right.
It's not hates the sins, but hates sins in general.
Right.
Number
Okay.
14. Ha de lagos tu Jesu eke exousion hati hatheos ein en te arche tu cosmu. Okay.
Okay.
De is another postpositive, which can mean what? And, or, but, or sometimes now in a non-temporal sense.
And which word? I'm sorry.
The word de,
Yeah. Oh,
it's
right,
a
yeah.
postpositive. If you use it as a but, it's a weaker adversative than Allah. Allah is what you call an adversative. It's contrary to what was said before. But de is weaker than Allah. So you could translate it but I translated it and.
Okay.
And the word of God. Logos is the word, the word of Jesus, not God. The word of Jesus has, it gives us that, authority. Hati means that, since, or because. And I tried them all out, and I think because it's the
Right.
right. Well, that's all right.
Saw things for them tonight, things I had that solved tonight, I couldn't get loose.
Okay. Well, we're in the workbook, chapter 7. We're on number 14. And I think I gave you the handout before Christmas about the answers to number 7.
Of the world.
Okay. Did you have it, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay, read it for us, please.
I think it's because he was in the beginning of the world.
That's right. Because he or because God?
Well, I'm sorry, has authority. Oh, I'm sorry, has authority because God was in, I'm sorry, because God was in the beginning of the world.
Right,
Right.
good,
Sorry, I was.
okay. Number 15. I didn't, I just realized that I forgot to work that one out for you, but I did it now. But let's read it together. Ego,
Ego,
hoio, ta ergon, to angelu, autos de eke, ein docton to theo. Okay. I do the work. Okay. Ego is the pronoun, personal pronoun I. It's nominative singular. Now also hoio has the it's first person singular masculine. I do. So you've got an I plus the I do. That's just emphasizing it a little bit. And you could say I myself do if you want to emphasize it with that way. Or you could, quite often when you have a contrast, which I think we do here, you'll have the repetition of the ego or the pronoun when it's not needed because it's implied by the verb. So I chose to not say I myself do, but I do the work, ta ergon. That's accusative singular neuter, the work of the messenger. It's also the word for angel, but I chose messenger.
Accusative singular. Oh, I
The
see.
two-
Right. Because ta could
yeah.
be either. Okay, I was
Right.
reading that
Remember
as
that neuter is
nominative.
tricky like that.
Okay,
The nominative and the accusative are identical.
right.
But the tu angelu, that tu is genitive singular masculine of the article. And angelos can mean messenger or angel. So I chose messenger. I do the work of the messenger of him. Now that's the way the Greek has it, but I could change it to say of his messenger. The work of his messenger.
Sorry, I'm not following this.
You-
Where do you have of him?
oh, wait a minute. I
There's a
misread that.
Has, apparently there's a verb. Have, it has, he has.
I think I messed up, Dave.
Oh,
I do the work of
is that de is and or but?
the messenger. Scratch that of him. I was thinking it was out to, but it's autos. That's it's
Oh,
not
wait a
genitive
minute.
singular.
I don't
That's nominative singular masculine. I did it too fast. Autos is the personal pronoun he.
He, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And that makes sense now.
He,
That corresponds to the ego in the first half of the sentence. I do the work of the messenger, but he.
Now we have this de. Is that like the post positive?
Yes, it is. And I translated that but
Okay. Or
because
and?
we have a contrast here. I do this, but he does that.
He has the
Or
glory.
he has the glory of God.
I do the work of the I do the work of the messenger, but he has the glory of God.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. I was missing that a little bit.
Now you leave the article of the messenger because it's
Yes, I did.
singular. Okay.
Yes, I did.
Or could it be a messenger?
No, because you do have the article.
Right.
Now,
You. Sorry.
if you had no article, you could say a messenger. the work of a messenger. But you would be reluctant to say the
Yeah.
messenger if there was no article there.
Semantically, I'm not sure there's a difference in this because he's not, I mean, there's no sense without a context. It doesn't seem like he's specifically
Right.
talking about a particular messenger.
Right, but
But
this is a
that's
made-up
okay.
sentence
Yeah, it's a
too.
made-up sentence. Yeah.
So that post-positive day
Mhm.
can be post-positive relative to the clause it's in, not just
That's correct. Very
the
good
complete
point.
sentence.
Yeah, you're starting all over here with a new clause, or it's actually a complex sentence.
Right.
It has two main clauses.
There's right. So you have a subject implicit in the sorry, you have a subject at ego and you have a subject in autos.
That's right. Mhm.
So,
And the de is the conjunction that joins them, and it's a contrast. So I chose but instead of and for the de.
so the emphasis on
So
I,
to arrive at the point of understanding this that way, it's like you're kind of parsing chunks
Yeah,
of this, and you would be saying, like, I could see, like, for me to get there, I'd have to see the back half of the sentence.
you would, yeah. And that's
He
kind
has
of-
the glory of God, and then it's like I do the work of the messenger, and then at some point realize that those are contrasting. That's
Yeah.
what day should be.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So there's a
Yeah.
multi-step process
That's
to
right.
get there. Yeah.
Two or
Okay.
three steps sometimes.
Okay. Take some patience.
Okay.
I do the work of the master. Okay, you know, I kind of like read this wrong. Like I'm doing the work the angel tells me to do. And he has the glory of God. But
Well,
that's
okay.
not really what this is saying.
No, I don't think so. Number 16. Now this is from Matthew 8:12, so it's not a made-up sentence. Hoi de huioi tes basileas ek blethasantai
They say on no.
ek blethasantai. The thesantai is all the ending. The ek is the preposition, and the beta lambda eta is the root of it.
Wow. Okay.
And
Uh,
but we haven't gotten to verbs yet. But ekblethesantai, ace ta skatats. Okay, where's our subject?
Uya, hoi,
Right.
uya, uya,
Hoi huioi.
uya. Okay.
Oh, I saw. There's the referee.
Yeah.
the sons,
Yeah.
but the sons.
But the sons, plural, hoi huioi, of the kingdom.
Oh,
Taste.
that's dated.
Yeah, this is,
Of the
taste is genitive singular feminine. And basileia is the lexical form, which means kingdom. But this is the genitive, the alpha sigma. Will be thrown, the sons of the kingdom will be
Oh,
thrown
thank you.
Into the darkness.
into the darkness.
That bothered me, so I had to go look that up and read the context.
Yeah,
Because it didn't seem right.
yeah. Well,
Oh, he's saying that this too.
This has to
Yeah,
do with
people rejecting it.
the sons of the earthly kingdom of Judah would be thrown into darkness because God was calling those who would be true, faithful. I mean, that's the
Right.
context, yeah.
yeah, you got to have context there to understand that one. Okay, number 17. This is from John 9:34, but he put it in parentheses, which means that he changed it a little bit to make it simple enough for us to understand. Okay. Apen, auto, and hamartiais, su egenethes. Okay. Now remember, apen is one of those words he gave us in some time back. It means he said. We
Yeah.
haven't got that as a vocabulary word
Or they
yet,
said.
but it's very common. He said, auto. Now, what Somebody want to try parsing that word, auto?
That's dative, singular, right?
Yes,
Masculine.
that's
Dative
right.
singular masculine, so it's like to or from him.
That's right. You use the keyword to or
To, yeah.
from, but I would suggest to. It's an indirect object.
That's what I was thinking.
Apin, what was Apin again? You just said, but.
He
but-
said.
Sorry. Okay,
He said to him,
that makes sense.
and then what follows after is, you could consider it to be in quotation marks.
In sin,
You were born. He gave us that. That's the
Ah.
verb.
Since
That's
you were
where the
born.
subject of this quotation is. You were born
in sin.
in sins. Now, the Sue is just making it more emphatic.
So,
You don't need the Sue because the egenethes tells you it's you, singular. But this is for emphasis. You might remember,
you were
this is the-
completely born in sin, isn't that
Yeah,
some
the blind
translation?
man.
So that's reflects.
Not reflexive, it's
No.
just for emphasis, not you yourself, that would be reflexive, but
Yeah.
you were born in sins.
Okay.
They're saying it with a sneer, probably. The man born blind that Jesus healed.
Yep.
You were
Um,
altogether born in sin.
So why is it, what makes it altogether or completely, I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's probably what the,
I think NKJV maybe is.
yeah,
Oh, that's what
Yeah.
it's, but I don't see, okay.
that's why he modified it.
Oh, because I don't see that in this.
Right.
The word altogether.
Oh,
is
all right,
not
yeah,
in
that's
there.
actually, and I did look it up and I put it there in circles because I had that question, where is it?
Yeah, that's why he's got it in parentheses, because he
Okay.
took that out.
All right, it
because-
was too hard for us.
Yeah. too
Got
hard
it.
for- Okay, number 18.
Oh, so that's not inferred from the Sioux. I'm sorry.
No, it's
No,
not.
Okay, got it.
You could leave it untranslated,
But we're not ready
but
for
because
action.
it's in the
For
verb
action.
already.
Yeah.
Or you could use voice inflection.
Yeah.
You were born in sins,
Right.
implying
Oh.
we weren't.
Right.
And I would have left the order the way it was because it was understandable.
It is
He
understandable.
he
In
said
sins
to
you were
him,
born.
in sins you were born.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
You
Yes,
know,
and that's a good point, Dave. Quite often, a word or a group of words will be thrown to the front of the sentence or the clause to emphasize them,
In
because
sin.
it's the most important part of it. You were born in sins. We're born. It's-
I don't know, I would just would have
in-
left it
in
the same
sins
because
you
it
were
doesn't
born.
seem like it matters. It's understandable, the point's there. and
It is, but
But the translations flip it around.
do they?
I think
Okay,
so,
I
yeah.
haven't checked
Uh,
different translations on this.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Number 18, another made-up sentence. Latruo ton theon hati ego pistuo
Duo.
to
Oh,
euangelio
Evangelion.
to
To-
quiu autu. Okay. The subject is implied in the verb, I serve. And then the direct object of that is ton theon. I serve God.
As I believe.
Because
I do.
I believe. Now, I believe is implied in pistuo. That means I believe. But you have the ego in addition to that, because I myself, you could say, believe the gospel
Good
of the
news
Son of Him,
is
of
Son,
His Son.
of his
In other
son.
words, yeah.
Carl, just
Yes.
like it's 17,
Of the son
like
of
the
him, of
question-
his son.
Okay, back to 17.
Double
17 and
name,
18
gender,
have the
double
same
gender.
question, actually, for
yeah.
me.
All right, what is
When
it?
we translate that, would we translate that with a capital H for him?
Well, in 17,
Speaking to Jesus, right? And saying, hey, this guy's born into sins.
Oh,
No,
well, we often,
no, none of the pronouns there refer to Jesus.
Well,
The
they may
Sue
be, yeah.
refers to the blind man. You were born in sins.
in the context, it's not actually,
Yeah.
but if you were, I mean, traditionally, if we have a hymn that's referring to Jesus, we capitalize it in the
Yes.
translations, yes.
Okay, that's what, yeah, okay.
But in this case, the Sue doesn't refer to Jesus, it refers to the blind man. But in 18, we've got a made-up sentence. So I hesitate to, well, no, wait a minute, I did say the gospel of his son. Yeah, his, I did capitalize his and son, because the gospel does pertain to Jesus.
Yeah.
But without having much context in a made-up sentence
Understood.
especially, you gotta be careful. Okay, number 19 is from 1 Kings 8:34. That's from the Septuagint. I think I'll do this one myself. Kai su asakue, asakuse, kai, is that rough breathing? Yeah,
Yeah.
Helios,
Helio.
Yeah.
Helio.
Helios, esse, tais hamartiais, to lau, to Israel, kai oisete, autus estain gain.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. The subject is in the verb oisete. Let me find my place. Okay. No, I skipped a line. That's the
It's,
second one.
Sue.
Yeah, Sue is the subject. That's nominative singular of you, but you also have it in the verb. Isakue, you will hear. You yourself will hear. You could do that if you want. Using the you self, the reflexive pronoun for emphasis. And you yourself will hear and
You
will
person.
and implied you again will be merciful to the sins of the people of Israel. Okay, to the tais is dative plural feminine, using the key word to for dative, to the sins. To lau is genitive singular masculine, of the people, keyword of, and then to Israel, that's also genitive singular masculine, use the keyword of again. You will be merciful to the sins of Israel. You will be merciful to the people of Israel. No, I haven't got it right yet.
To the
To the
sins
sins of the people of Israel. There it is. You don't translate the in front of Israel because that's a proper noun.
And
I hope I didn't confuse it too badly.
bring them into the land, right?
And bring them into the land, yes.
So this is, I mean, this seems to be the simple way to translate it, but it seems in meaning wise not quite right, because God's not going to be merciful to the sins.
Could on be used instead?
Oh,
And
I
on
don't
the
know.
sins of the people of Israel, you will have mercy.
well, I think maybe with might be a better word. You will be merciful with the sins.
Not really quite sure. But I mean, this, I didn't remember which pronoun, preposition is that?
Tice, that's the dative plural feminine of the article.
The two is from,
Well, you would use.
We're
it-
just picking a pronoun
it's
because
just a key word
Picking a keyword. from
Picking the
data.
keyword
Yeah.
from the data.
for the
yeah.
dative.
To, for, in, or with is the most common one.
Merciful on this ends, or merciful.
No,
can you say
on is not
merciful
really one of the
on?
choices, I don't think.
Have mercy upon.
Toward,
Toward,
is that what
yeah,
that-
possibly. Yeah, maybe so.
It makes more sense.
Yeah,
in the
toward the
English.
sins. Yeah, I think that might be a good choice.
What was
Ray.
the
It-
address?
1 Kings 8:34.
I think I looked this up and
Did you look that one up?
I can't remember what I did.
King James says, then hear thou, oh, this is part of Solomon's prayer of dedication.
Hmm,
Then hear thou in heaven,
mhm.
he's addressing God, and forgive the sin of thy people Israel, and bring them again into
Yeah.
the land which thou gavest unto their fathers.
Yeah, forgive is the same as to be merciful to the, yeah,
Yeah,
Have
toward,
mercy
yeah.
Toward.
That's a simpler way to put it.
yeah. Thanks for that, Ray. That's good.
Interesting, isn't it? Yeah,
Toward.
that's interesting.
I didn't think that carefully about it, Dave. It's good that you are.
No, okay, I'm looking at what I wrote here and going, I know I did this because it was a simple translation, but seems odd.
What's curious is the fact that, Helms chose to use the term merciful, but in both the King James here, where we've got the word forgive, and in the Reina Valera sesenta, where the Spanish put perdonarat, which is will forgive, it shows forgive as opposed to
Be
mercy.
merciful to, yeah. Well, it's,
I mean, they're related, but they're not.
yeah, it's
exactly
very
the same.
close. It's
I-
not
well-
exact. You're right.
Well, without being, not really knowing, I don't remember looking this up.
No, we could possibly look in the Septuagint, and there are changes between the Septuagint, which is translation of the Hebrew. And quite often, that's where
Do we
a
have
lot
this?
of
Do we have it?
rewording occurs.
Do we have it in our lexicon? I mean, just sort of in ignorance that eleos
Ilios, is that,
is merciful or is, I mean,
yes.
Big-
Ilios,
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we saw a word for forgive earlier in here.
and I mean, the Greek we have in front of us would be,
Athenai, right?
yeah, Aphianai.
it could be a difference to the Septuagint, I mean,
Septuagint
between,
versus like the Masoretic text or
Yeah.
some.
I don't know where this Greek is coming from. Right?
Hmm,
Where's,
It's interesting.
where is this Greek from? I mean, what, it's because it's from a
He
Hebrew
takes
scripture.
it, yeah, he takes it from the Septuagint,
So it's,
not the Hebrew.
does anybody have an interlinear to?
I was
It's gotta
trying
be
to
in
look it
Hebrew.
up.
I just checked the Hebrew.
Yeah,
The Hebrew word, the verb there was salah, which means to forgive or to pardon.
Okay, but do you have the
Dude, we don't-
Septuagint on there?
no,
I will find it.
you have to find it, right?
Yeah, I've got a book at home with the Septuagint in it.
I mean, the trend to use the say to forgive is much simpler than trying to work out this odd Greek into English.
Well, that's part of the exercise for us. is-
No, it's fun, but
Well,
is there really a significance here in the meaning?
remember that
I
incident
don't
where
think so.
Jesus talked about the two men who went up into the temple to pray?
Yeah.
One was a Pharisee, one was publican. And the publican said, God be merciful to me,
Yeah.
the sinner.
Yeah,
And that word merciful is is not the word helios.
oh,
It's actually the word that is translated for mercy seat. The hilaskamai, I think is what it is. And what he's literally saying is mercy seat me.
Wow.
And you know the teaching about the mercy seat
Wow.
Yeah,
on the day of atonement, the high priest would go in to the Holy of Holies and sprinkle blood on the mercy seat, the top part of the Ark of the Covenant. And that was what was required to put off payment of sins for another year.
Yeah.
And so when the
That is
publicans,
so deep.
it's powerful.
That
Dan.
is so deep.
Yeah. He doesn't say forgive me. He doesn't say be merciful to me in the Greek. He says
Our translations
mercy
inadequate.
seat or propitiation.
yeah, he's asking for propitiation of blood.
But it's the
Yeah.
recognition
Blood
of
covering.
God put the mercy seat above the law on the Ark of the Covenant. It's covered with his mercy seat. Otherwise, everybody would be dead.
Yeah.
And he's saying, it's like our translation's so inadequate.
Yeah.
The publican's saying, knows, understands
Yeah.
that God loves mercy.
He has only one ground for forgiveness, and that was through the blood.
And are you using the term publican, meaning?
That
A
tax
sinner,
collector.
tax collector.
That's the King James
Got it.
word.
Thank you. Thank you. Right.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I may have done a Greek study on that. If I haven't, I'm going to do
Wow,
it.
that is good, Carl. Wow.
What you got, Ray?
I think I was gonna bring it over so you can see it, but I mean, it pretty much reads just like it reads there.
Ah,
It's right there.
Helios.
Well,
Yeah.
So scholars in Alexandria in, what was it?
Yeah. 250 BC roughly.
yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Decided that was the way to translate.
Yes.
Hebrew.
Uh-huh.
Now-
Into English.
Think about it for a second.
Into Greek.
Yeah,
into Greek.
Right,
Hebrew
yeah.
to Greek. But that Septuagint Greek version is what was used by Jesus and the apostles.
Uh-huh.
And we know that the Old Testament Hebrew was inspired by God. We know that the New Testament Greek is inspired by God. Well, that in some cases, that Septuagint version shows up in the New Testament
Right.
as inspired
Mm-hmm.
scripture.
Yeah.
And it's different from the Hebrew.
Jesus, you think Jesus spoke Greek, read Greek?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Probably in the homes, they spoke Aramaic, but it was the law of the land to speak Hebrew.
I'm a little, okay. So you're saying that in the rabbinical traditions, they weren't using the Hebrew? I don't believe
Well,
that.
in the
That's not so.
synagogues, they probably did.
They
use
used
the
Hebrew, and he was in the synagogues, he was reading Hebrew.
Remember in Luke 4, when they handed Jesus the roll,
Yeah.
the scroll, and he found in Isaiah 61, that was recorded in Luke in Greek.
Well,
Well,
that's
it may
fine,
be
but
that
Luke is
Luke
using
wasn't
the
standing
Septuagint. He
there,
wasn't
so he went
standing.
and found the text that he
I'm-
would have read
I
and he
see.
reported. maybe.
Good
I'm
point.
struggling with thinking that Jesus is reading a Septuagint. I just don't,
Luke would have
that's not making
definitely.
sense to me. Because you're saying he was required by law to speak Greek? What law was requiring Jesus to
No,
speak
it
Greek?
was from the time of Alexander,
Oh, I know it was the common language. It was the trade
Yeah.
language.
not just trade language. It was forced on the people. It was, they were required to speak and
Okay, but there was this division between the Jews and the Hellenistic Jews, and there was a Septuagint, but the Jews in the Jews in Israel were hanging on to their Hebrew
much as they
texts.
could,
They
yeah.
weren't reading the Septuagint,
but in
and there was
public,
this division between them.
they spoke Greek.
Okay,
You know, if you're trying to grasp why they would have done that, I mean, because we've got clear evidence.
No, I
in the
don't-
New Testament that they did. If you're trying to grasp why, there's certain things that just culturally, the concepts don't exist in
Well-
in a particular culture. So there's no word for it. So sometimes you have to switch languages to explain things clearly.
but no, I don't have a problem with Septuagint verses in the New Testament and the apostles and those who wrote down the scriptures, God's prophets in the New Testament. had access to it and were quoting it. I don't have any issue with that. I doubt the use of the Septuagint in a Hebrew first century home in synagogue.
In the
I
homes,
do not accept that that's probably true.
I think you're right, Dave.
Okay.
In places like that, where they were free to speak their whatever language they wanted to without being watched by.
Because they kept the Hebrew going until
Yeah, they did.
it was translated into the Roman later. It was later translated into Latin directly from the Hebrew. I mean, they kept it alive. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, right up until, yeah,
I mean,
they buried them.
And this is why you had this big division that we see between the Greeks. When they said Greeks, they were Greeks. They were talking about Jewish people
Yeah,
who spoke Greek.
Hellenized
That
Jews.
Hellenized Jews that didn't speak Hebrew anymore.
Greek-speaking Jews, yeah.
They didn't like them.
And they were right. They were looked down upon as
Okay.
inferior.
I mean,
But
that's all.
yeah, I don't want to get sidetracked too
No, I'm
much.
sorry.
And these are very interesting discussions, I admit, but
I just like to keep context of what was happening.
I don't recall reading anything that's ever talked about Jesus speaking in Greek or quoting in Greek or reading in Greek, but I would be very interested to hear.
well, I know too
that's-
that from the
okay.
cross, Jesus used the Aramaic phrase,
Sure.
Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani.
Right.
And it explains that means. And
And
he would
Luke-
use
Luke
Aramaic.
translates the Aramaic.
Yeah.
for us
Aramaic
because
is
he
very
does-
close to Hebrew. It's a Semitic language.
There are those who say that Jesus didn't really speak. I mean, I've heard this, that Jesus didn't even speak Hebrew. He really spoke Aramaic, and that's what everybody was using. And there were Aramaic copies of the Old Testament. I don't follow that because the rabbinical schools and the rabbis were careful to keep their Hebrew going and alive, and they used it in the synagogues. Jesus
That's
was
right, the young
called
man.
a rabbi.
Mhm.
Jesus was had some training, if not only by God, but he had exposure to. He talked with the rabbis in the temple.
Well,
I mean,
this
this would have been in Hebrew.
People like Bodhi Bacham would say that he was roughly in the scholastic tradition of the Pharisees. Like he was
Yes.
a Pharisee in that
Yes,
sense.
in that
And
sense.
so he's addressing, not to confuse doctrinal points, but like
But training
speaks
wise,
like
he
they do,
speaks
and
like
he's
they
trained
do.
like
If we ask the questions, all those traditions.
yeah.
Well, people were multilingual.
Yeah, he certainly would have spoke Aramaic and probably Greek.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you're adding is that he would have taught in.
I don't think so, and I don't
Hmm.
think he would have for his own and those around him. He would
I
use
think
I-
people he's talking
I
to
could see where
probably
maybe he would have preferred always speaking in Hebrew, but then whenever speaking to a Gentile, maybe switch over to Greek.
Greek or Aramaic.
Yeah.
Like
But
when he's
what-
talking to Samaritan, what
But
we use
for
there.
instance, if we,
Talking to.
Right,
but for instance, if we read Luke's gospel and it's providing a quotation of scripture that Jesus read, it's believable that that would come from the Septuagint because Luke, being the researcher, would go and find the text that he read. You know what I'm saying? If he wasn't there to
Probably
hear
so.
it read. I mean,
and I don't
think
have an
that's
issue with
problematic
that. I have
necessarily,
no
but-
problem with that. That doesn't cause any problem for me.
Yeah, I'm not knowledgeable enough to go farther than what we've gone, so.
Okay.
We're trying to learn Greek.
Yes,
so-
yes.
I think
Yes, sir.
We're
Yes.
speculating. So
That's true.
Yeah, we are
Right.
speculating, so.
But it is fascinating, and
It
I mean,
is,
so
yeah.
do you have a problem with the fact that these translations all put the word to forgive there instead of mercy to the sins, they put forgive our sins? Does that bother you?
It
I
doesn't
I
bother
don't
me.
think it substantially changes. the meaning.
No, it doesn't.
Right, right.
Okay, number
education.
20, the last one, and then we're done with chapter 7. Aute. Now, there is another word, haute, with a rough breathing that means something different. But this is aute. That's a nominative singular feminine of autos.
She.
Um,
Where?
out-
For
the
number
first
19.
word of number 20.
20. Oh,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
aute apen, to Iesu, ati hutoi. See the rough breathing there? Hutoi, or gidsusi, te basileia ton anthropon. Aute means she. It's nominative singular feminine. Autos means he. That would be nominative singular masculine. But this is she said. To Iesu. What's that mean?
The toe is dative, correct?
Yes.
So she said to Jesus.
To Jesus. That ati is that since or because. That hutoi means these. It's a demonstrative pronoun. You've got, well, we haven't gotten to this yet, but there's two demonstratives,
That's the
this
boy.
or these, and that or those.
No,
This or these is what's
That's
called a
what that
near
was.
demonstrative, and the other is a
These,
far
okay,
demonstrative. Yeah,
That's the
you can use your
altoid.
finger to point at it.
Okay.
And if it's close to you, it's this or these. If it's far away, it's that or those.
Okay.
In these tables, not the.
That's right.
That's the altoid.
Hutoi. There's a
Okay.
rough breathing there on the
Hutoi.
who.
Hutoi, yeah, yes.
Hutos is a nominative singular masculine, but this is plural, nominative plural masculine. These people, and I supplied the word people. That's
Okay,
implied. These people are angry. He gives us that. Te basileia. Well, te is dative singular feminine of the article. With the kingdom. I chose with instead of to or for.
Of man.
Or, yeah. With the kingdom of men.
Of men. Right.
Yeah.
Plural.
Anthropon.
Okay.
That own ending is genitive plural.
So they are angry with the kingdom of men, or at
Yes.
the kingdom of men.
Yeah, it would
perhaps,
be
or
okay, I
like that
suppose.
would be an indirect object, I guess.
No,
No,
I
sorry.
don't think
I'm
so.
sorry.
Okay. Are you satisfied with this now? With
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
exercises, you feel good about them? Let's go on to chapter 8.
Oh.
Textbook. I'd like to try getting through reading this chapter. It's not too long, but some important concepts I'm going to be talking about. Oh, by the way, the last part of chapter 7 on pages 64 through 66 is what he calls exegesis. I think some of this is second year stuff. You can read it if you want to, but I'm not going to go over it now because we're not going to dig into stuff that deep right now. Okay, page 68 in the textbook, overview. Going to learn prepositions are little words like over, under, and through that define the relationship between two words, usually between two nouns or pronouns. The word following the preposition is called the object of the preposition, and the preposition with its object and modifiers is called a prepositional phrase. Are you okay?
Where are you?
Page 68. I'm
You
skipping the
skipped- okay, I'm
exegetical
sorry.
insight. You can read that on your own. Another thing he's going to teach us is how the meaning of a preposition changes. And that's one of the difficult parts of translation and interpretation is how to translate a preposition in the context. And then dependent clauses and the verb ami. It's a very common verb. It means I am. And predicate nominatives. Okay. 8.1, could we have a reader, please?
Prepositions. A preposition is a word that indicates the relationship between two words. In the sentence, the book is under the table. The preposition under describes the relationship between book and table, which in this case is a spatial relationship. Here are some other prepositions in English. Her feet are on the chair. The ball went over his head. John came with his disciples. John came before Jesus.
Okay, those are all spatial relationships.
Some of them were temporal. John came
Oh,
before
oh, yeah,
Jesus.
yeah, before. Okay, you're right about that. But there are other types of relationships besides spatial. Go ahead.
It has been said that a preposition is anything a rabbit can do with its home. He can go in it, around it, dig under it, etc. The word that follows the preposition is called the object of the preposition. In the first example above, the object of the preposition under is table. The book is under the table.
Mhm.
The object of the preposition is always in the objective case.
Now, this is English.
Right.
Mhm.
You would not say the book is under he. You say the book is under him.
Mhm.
He is subjective and him is objective. The preposition together with its object and modifiers is called a prepositional phrase. The first example above, the prepositional phrase is under the table. Predicate nominative, 8.2. The verb to be gives rise to a special situation. The verb to be has many different forms: am, are, was, were, etc. If you say the teacher is I, the pronoun I is not receiving the action of the verb. Rather, it is telling you something about the subject. In grammarian's terminology, the pronoun I is predicating something about the subject.
By the way, it sounds funny to us to say the teacher is I. Because in our day,
Reverse the word order.
what's that?
We would reverse the word order.
Well, I am the teacher,
Yeah.
yeah, possibly, but this is correct grammatically, even though it doesn't sound like that. Most people would say the teacher is me,
Right.
but me is objective, not subjective.
Mhm.
And it does not take a direct object. That verb doesn't. It's an intransitive verb.
Okay,
Mhm.
because I is subjective. Me is
Yeah,
objective.
he
Got
makes
it.
a note
Okay.
about that here. Yeah.
All right, sorry. Because it is not receiving the action of the verb, the pronoun cannot be a direct object. Rather, it is called a predicate nominative and is put in the subjective case. It is incorrect English to say the teacher is me, regardless of current usage, because me is objective while I is subjective. We should say the teacher is I.
I should have waited till he said it.
Yeah, that's good.
All right.
Okay.
Moving on to Greek or
Mhm.
8.3. The function of a preposition in Greek is the same as English. There is one important fact, however, you need to understand about Greek prepositions. In Greek, the meaning of a preposition depends on the case of its object.
Now, he put that in italics because it's important. The case of a preposition affects its meaning. And we'll see that in just a few minutes.
Okay. For example, the preposition dia means through if its object is in the genitive, but on account of if its object is in the accusative.
Footnote 2.
Technically, this is not accurate. What? Sorry. The object does not govern the preposition, but the preposition governs the object. In other words, when a preposition has a specific meaning, it requires that the object be in a certain case. But from the translator's point of view, it is easier to look at the case of the object and from that determine the meaning of the preposition.
Which is what
that's
we'll
the only
do,
way
yeah.
you would.
Yeah.
Okay. The object
Okay,
almost always immediately follows the preposition.
Almost all.
That is the object of the preposition.
Mhm. There might be intervening words.
Some prepositions are always followed by the same case.
Hang on for a second. Can we go back here?
Yeah.
Say there might be intervening words. Would the intervening words always be related, such as modifiers of the object?
Probably so. Into the blue house. The and blue are intervening words between the preposition and its
Okay.
object,
Mhm.
but they will probably be adjectives or pronouns
Right.
Some-
or article or
Probably
the
adverbs
article.
or adjectives.
Yeah,
so in the Greek it works that
yeah,
way.
and that happens in the Greek as well.
Okay. Some prepositions are always followed by the same case, so they only have one set of meanings. For example, the preposition "en" always takes an object in the dative and has the basic meaning "in." But other prepositions can be followed by two cases, and a few can even be followed by three cases. The object will never be in the nominative, except under rare circumstances. 8.4 Flashcards. For the purpose of memorization, you should make a separate flashcard for each case. In other words, one flashcard should say dia with the genitive, while another should say dia with the accusative. Very specific now. 8.5
Okay.
Key words. Earlier, you learned to use the keyword to with the dative. However, if a word is in the dative because it is the object of a preposition, do not use the keyword.
And I underlined that sentence too, because you're getting used to using keywords for dative and genitive.
Right.
But you don't do that with prepositional phrases.
Okay,
Yeah, okay, that makes sense, actually.
actually makes sense, right? Because the preposition is telling you what the relationship is
Yeah,
that the case helps it perform. Okay. For example, ha logos to theo means the word to God. The key word to is used since theo is in the dative. However, the phrase ha logos
soon.
to theo is translated the word with God. Soon is a preposition meaning with and takes its object in the dative. You would not say the word to with God,
Yeah,
since theo is dative due to the preposition.
you just omit the word to because that's a key word for dative without being a preposition.
The same is the same is true of not translating the keyword of when the object is in the genitive. 8.6 Not inflected. The form of a preposition does not vary depending on its usage. It is not inflected. The preposition para will be para, whether the object is in the genitive, dative, or accusative. The only time the preposition changes its form has nothing to do with inflection. When certain prepositions ending in a vowel are followed by a word beginning with a vowel, the final vowel of the preposition may be dropped and marked with an apostrophe.
Elision.
So this would be meta auton would be met auton.
Right. And the purpose for that is just for pronunciation. It's easier to pronounce met auton instead of meta auton. And it's very similar to what we already learned with oo and ook and other words like that. They only change to make it easier to pronounce.
Shall I continue?
Mhm.
When a preposition ends in a vowel and the following word begins with a vowel and a rough breathing, the consonant before the vowel in the preposition often changes as well. These changes were necessary in order to pronounce the combination of sounds more easily. Meta, hemon,
Hemon, yeah.
met, hemon, Methemon,
Yeah, he's showing you the three steps in getting to the final product.
right?
If a word begins with a rough breathing, the consonant, in this case, theta, would be used because theta is what's called an aspirate. When we get to 2 or 3 chapters down the road, they're going to have some very interesting things about consonants, how they're grouped in certain patterns. And I'll wait until we get there, but that methemon is easier to say than methemon or metahamon.
Methemon.
And by the way, meta, is that greater or no, I don't know if I'm sorry, these prepositions.
Okay.
You may want to make separate vocabulary cards for each of these altered forms. Each form will be listed in the vocabulary section. When memorizing the definition of a preposition, I suggest you use this formula. N with the dative means in.
Mhm.
Got it. So blank with the blank means
Yeah.
blank.
Right.
When asked to explain why the object of the preposition is in a given case, I suggest you respond with the complete formula. Blank is in the blank because it is the object of the preposition blank that takes the blank.
That's a little cumbersome, in my opinion. I do a separate card. I did when I did flashcards, use a separate card for each case of the preposition, but I didn't go into that much detail.
Okay.
Do whatever works for you.
So as example, auto is in the dative because it is the object of the preposition n that takes the dative.
Okay.
Okay,
If you want to do it that way, fine, but I think it's a little cumbersome.
this is fine. We will only, assuming we're not studying, we're not going to be given Greek that's improper. We're not, I mean, so we're going to see the thing that it's in the dative, and we'll
Yeah.
see the preposition.
Yes,
And we should know that in only takes the dative already.
yes. If you look
So I
at
mean, it's
the,
kind of it's not really a thing to,
yeah, but there are some prepositions that
Well,
take multiple
that's
cases.
right. And so we'll have to understand those and their changes for pronunciation, so we recognize them.
I
Yeah.
have a listing of all the ordinary prepositions here somewhere. I didn't bring it with me tonight. I don't
Just
think.
kind of a lot of trouble to talk about. All I'm saying is it's a lot of trouble to talk about something that doesn't seem like as we're translating comes up. We're not asked as we're translating to explain why something's in
Oh,
the
no.
native.
No,
We're not learning to speak it really. We're learning to translate it.
that's right.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Can we have somebody else read for a bit?
Yeah, I need to catch up with my notes.
Yeah, thank you for that. Somebody like to start 8.9 reading?
Go ahead, Drew.
Sure. Didn't know if I can be heard, but
Yeah.
we'll go for it.
Can you hear Ray?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Dependent clauses. In this chapter, you will learn the word ina,
Hina, that's a rough breathing. It's hard to see.
hina, meaning in order that. Hina is always the first word in what is called a dependent clause. In chapter 6, you learned of the word haughty, which also introduces a dependent clause. A dependent clause is a collection of words that cannot stand alone. It has meaning only when it is part of a complete sentence. It is dependent upon that sentence. For example, in the English clause, if I go home, is not a sentence. It is incomplete when standing on its own. It is therefore dependent on the main sentence. If I go home, I will eat dinner. Here is the important point. As you are looking for the main subject and verb in a sentence, you will never find them in a dependent clause. There will be a subject and a verb in the dependent clause, but they will not be the main subject and verb of the sentence. Halftime review.
We can skip
Isn't-
that, I think.
Okay.
Let's go into 8.10.
Amy,
Right.
the formal study of verbs has been deferred until chapter 15. For now, you are to concentrate on nouns and learn them well. Later, you will tackle verbs. However, there is one common verb worth learning right now. Amy. You may want to review the verbal grammar discussed at 15.14 through 16. Basic verbal grammar. The basic part of a verb is called the stem. The stem carries the basic meaning of the verb. Personal endings are added to the end of the stem to indicate person and number. There are three persons, grammatically speaking.
Question.
When he refers to the verb stem, is that equivalent to an English infinitive form?
No. Well, wait a minute. I said that too quickly. It's the part of the verb that has the meaning. In English, in a dictionary, the verb will be listed, the lexical form of the verb will be an infinitive.
Right.
But in Greek, the lexical form is not the infinitive of the verb. It's the first person singular, first person. First person singular, like I am, Amy. He's got the paradigm for the verbs on the next page, 8.12. And the reason you list the first person singular as the lexical form is because that's where you'll find it in the lexicon. Unlike English, Greek is very highly inflected and the form changes so much, it'd be very hard to find it under the infinitive form.
So the stem is not the equivalent of our infinitive, and it will have an equivalent. Is that true?
No, the stem is the basic part of the verb without the ending that carries.
Sounds like an infinitive.
Well, no,
We add two to indicate the infinitive function in a verb.
right.
Because it has a function in a sentence.
Yeah, but infinitives have different endings too, and different tenses.
But that's
So-
only after they're no longer an infinitive at that point. They've been conjugated by then.
Yeah, you have infinitive. I could show you that in this, well, later in the book, but I really hesitate to get into infinitives right now because we need to learn a whole lot more before we get there.
Wow.
Second paragraph, 811.
Okay, yeah,
There are three persons, grammatically speaking. You have all feminine pronouns. Ego is the first person. I. Two is the second person.
Sue.
You. Oh, Sue, sorry. Autos is the third person. He, she, or it. The plural forms are we or us, you, and they or them. Likewise, personal endings on verbs indicate person. For example, the ace ending on graphes
Yeah,
tells you that the subject is you, singular. The a ending on graphe tells you that the subject is he, she, or it. Graphes means you write, and graphe means he writes. Am I pronouncing that? I can't hear a difference between that and the noun. Is there one?
Between that and the noun?
It's an eta, I believe, right?
Ah,
It's an eta,
Ends
right?
with an eta, but it sounds similar to the diphthong. for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Graphes, graphe.
Okay.
I didn't understand the question.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's just the
we-
noun version.
we've
of
been-
graph.
Just making sure I can understand the difference between the verb to write and the noun
writing.
writing.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah, we have the noun.
Yeah.
Hey, graphe.
Graphe ends, the writing or the scripture ends with an eta, not an epsilon iota.
Right.
but it's pronounced the same way.
Okay. Okay. All right. A verb agrees with its subject, which means that its personal ending is the same person and number as its subject. If the subject is ego,
Ego.
ego, the verb will be first person singular. If the subject is
Apostoloi. Apostoloi.
apostoloi, the verb will be third person plural.
Now, he made a mistake there. It will be first person plural. Remember, omicron iota is first person plural.
Oh, okay.
Wait,
Okay. What?
how does that? No,
I'm
isn't that?
confused.
Apostolos is first person. Excuse me.
Why? Is second person.
Is there personage? I mean, we're talking about
really
it's third
confused.
person because it's a noun, not me, right? Why confused?
You're right. You're right. I'm sorry. My thinking's off base right now. So he was correct.
To look this up.
Yeah, third person plural.
Third person.
We're sounding more and more like we're from Berea.
Yeah, I guess that's not a bad thing.
Thank you. Yeah, that's right. You need to check me.
It would be third person because it's something outside of me or you. right?
Yes, yes.
The
You're right.
apostles. So that's.
I was confusing
I'm
nouns with
sorry.
verbs.
This is a noun, right? Apostoloi?
Right.
Mhm.
That's right.
The noun's
Again,
not, its case isn't reflected.
It's a case. This is confusing me.
But
It's
he's
the-
saying it would be
it's-
third person,
It's the
just
plural,
because it's a noun of a thing.
it's the plural nominative, isn't it?
Oi,
Of the noun?
Boy, yeah.
the-
Nominative.
I'm sorry, this is what I'm trying to get to because he's confusing me. It's the plural nominative case of the noun.
Yes,
Mhm.
correct.
nominative plural.
Right, but in
And-
order to refer to that with a verb, the verb would be third person.
Yes.
Uh,
Well,
Okay, I'm just,
Mhm.
it says third person plural.
He's
For
not
the
saying the
verb.
noun is third person plural.
No,
He's
I'm-
saying,
Just I'm sorry, I'm trying to digest it.
yeah.
Am I the only
yeah.
one?
I'm having trouble too. right now,
Sorry.
'cause
I just,
It's yeah.
Well, it would
There's
help
two
give it
different
a-
sets of information, right?
Yeah,
Because
right,
nouns
right.
carry one
Talk
set of
about verb.
information,
verb
and verbs
is-
carry a different set of information.
I'm
But where
sorry.
they overlap, they have to agree.
How do I know that it's third person plural and it couldn't be second person plural? I'm sorry, I'm not following.
Because that would be you.
Because he's saying if the subject of the
Yeah,
sentence
word.
is the noun apostles, right?
Okay, maybe I'm missing the point of the sentence.
If the apostles is the subject,
If the
then
subject is
first person is
ego, ego,
second person is you, third person is like everything else.
Okay, I'm sorry, stop. The subject is nominative second person of apostle.
What? No, there's no person in it.
No,
No, nominative plural.
Yes,
How do I know that that's third and not second person?
because second person would
Because
be
it's
you.
not me or you.
Me is first, you is second, everything else is
No, I'm
third,
sorry.
pretty much,
But
right?
the apostle-
Wait a minute. There's a plural form of you.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
still second. It's-
Isn't that second person?
Yeah, but apostles isn't you.
but nouns don't have person. They have number, but not person.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just being stupid. I'm
No,
sorry.
you're not. I was confused the same way.
You
David.
don't, yeah,
Oh.
cut the person
I'm
idea
sorry.
out of
There-
that.
there's- Yeah, this is sort of a confusing point here.
First and second person can only be pronouns.
It's
I'm
actually
sorry.
critical.
All
It's
nouns
not
are
how it
going
fits.
to be
Third
third
person.
person.
Right.
I'm sorry. That's all I needed.
Yeah,
I'm being stupid.
well, I was too, David.
And
I thank you for that. It saved me the embarrassment.
Yeah, no, I wasn't the only one lost.
No, you were not the only one lost.
Just you and me.
It's late in the day and I'm tired.
Wow. Okay. A car is not a person.
Yeah, you are not a car.
Okay, let's go on to
All right,
8.12.
All right. Amy is the most common verb in Greek, and all its forms should be memorized. In the paradigm below, first means first person, etc. SG means singular, and PL means plural. This is the present tense form of Amy. So
Okay,
we have
my abbreviations are 1S, 2S, 3S, 1P, 2P, and 3P. You can use whatever you want, but I do it for brevity.
Okay.
we want to go through the paradigm.
Yeah, let's read these vertically, just for pronunciation's sake, but you can see Amy means I am, you are, and so forth. So Amy,
Amy,
Esten,
Esten,
Esten, Esmen,
Esmen,
Este, not
Este.
Este, it's Este,
Okay.
Esteen. Now, there's a little bit of confusion whether it should be in or een. That iota can be either long or short for pronunciation. And I'm not sure we know enough to be clear on that.
I don't know anything about conjugation of Greek verbs. My initial impression looking at this is that Amy looks as irregular as to be.
Yeah, you're right. To
Yeah.
be in English is the
Is
most
our-
irregular of all verbs. In every language, you probably Russian or whatever you've learned, it's the same for every language.
Well, no, remember, Russian doesn't have a verb to be.
Oh,
Oh, my goodness.
I didn't know that.
And their favorite place
To be or not
is-
to be.
I mean, his hand.
How do they, okay.
I don't know.
Y'all have to tell me later.
I really don't know.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Interesting.
Footnote 3 there. In English, we use the same word I want to talk about this a little bit. Footnote 3 under you are. In English, we use the same word you for the second person pronoun, both singular and plural.
Mhm.
Various ways have been suggested to distinguish them in your translation. For example, thou and ye, that's the King James English, and you and you all.
Y'all.
Y'all.
Sorry.
What's the plural of y'all? All of y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, my
I will use you for both, but your teacher may prefer another method. I've got a method I've developed where I put a single dot above the O for singular you and two dots like an umlaut in German above the O for a plural you.
confused.
You can use whatever method helps you the most, but it is important in some cases to distinguish whether you're talking about you singular or you plural. And I'll give you one example. I don't want to spend a lot of time in this, but remember that verse in Luke where Jesus says to Peter, Satan has demanded permission to sift you as wheat. That you there is plural, all the disciples. But I have prayed for you, singular, Peter, that your faith will not fail.
Wow.
When thou art restored, strengthen your brothers. So
Strengthen the other use.
that's right, the other use.
Where-
What I think that's saying is that Jesus was willing to get down to one last apostle, namely Peter, and depend on him to strengthen the others. He let Satan go that far. Anyway, there are other verses where you singular and you plural, the distinction is very important. So you want to continue reading then, Drew?
Sure. Except for A, the forms of Amy are enclitics, which means they push their accent back on the previous word. they were normally not have an accent of their own.
Now, sometimes you'll find words that have two accents because of that phenomenon. The enclitic word pushed its accent back to the previous word, which also had another accent on a different syllable.
Oh, dear.
But accents aren't going to really throw us a curve all that much. There are a few places where an accent or lack of it makes a difference in the translation, or an accent on one syllable versus an accent on a different syllable makes a difference in the translation. But most of the time, you can almost ignore the accents.
Okay. 8.13, the movable new. A movable new is a new occurring at the end of a word that ends with a vowel when the following word begins with a vowel. For example, AC,
Autoi.
autoi. The purpose of adding the new is to avoid the pause necessary to pronounce both vowels. This is like changing the English a to an when the next word begins with a vowel.
That's
new
not hard
and-
to understand, is it? No.
No.
Okay.
The new in the third singular, astein, is a movable new. Footnote 4. The form asti without the new occurs only once in the New Testament, Acts 18:10. This is true in the 27th edition of Nestle Aland. However, new is added to all occurrences of astein in the 28th edition. See the Greek New Testament produced at Tyndale House, Cambridge.
what
That's, we don't need
Sorry.
to worry about that. That's too much
Okay.
information.
All right.
For Ed's sake, I'm a little lost.
Thank you.
Well, it
Okay.
is.
What are
quite a
we
bit.
saying about the new here?
Well, okay,
The pronunciation aid.
just for pronunciation, it's like an apple versus a book.
Okay, I hear that, but so here we have in the form he's given us, it has it,
Yes,
but it wouldn't have to.
sometimes you won't see the new there.
So if the
but it's
next thing has a consonant,
consonant.
we won't use it.
Right. But that's
So
not always true. There
The lexicon a lexicon might list it with the new or not the new.
are true.
Is that what he's saying down here? About all these different versions of things? I don't,
Well, the
Oh, this is the-
lexicon is
this
not
is
going to list
confusing.
that word because
Right.
it's not the lexical form.
okay,
Okay,
So-
Nestle Aland is a lexicon.
No,
it's a translation of
it's
the
a
New
text.
Testament.
Okay,
It's a Greek form of the New Testament. Is that what we're talking about?
It's a Greek text
Okay,
that has,
and they're saying in this case, some of them, they're inconsistent in their usage of this movable.
you've
new.
heard about textual variants.
Yes.
There are so many texts out there,
Yeah.
thousands of them.
Right.
Some of them have variations.
Mhm.
And one of the variations is in that word estin.
Okay.
okay.
All right. So the
So,
original manuscripts that we have it in place, the ones that the originals have
Mhm.
variations, and these texts, which are conglomerations of that,
mhm.
differ in their different editions, evidently.
In that
of-
one verse, one of them has a new, the other one
Doesn't.
doesn't. It's not that important.
Got it. Thank you.
The new in the third plural, asin, is also a movable new, but the form ac never occurs.
Mhm.
Often in Koine Greek, the movable new is used even when the following word begins with a consonant. It also occurs when it is the last word in a clause. So it
Okay.
sounds like by Koine, this just got stuck. They'd rather use the new.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, the question that comes from that is, even though it appears in the written form, would they pronounce it?
Yeah, if it's there, they would pronounce it. Okay,
Uh,
So
814.
is it fair to say,
question, please.
yeah, is it fair to say that a reasonable takeaway in looking at a Greek text is that we should expect that this might be missing the new at the end and it
That's
shouldn't
right.
bother us?
Right. If you say, if you see an AC, just in your mind, think it could be a scene just as well.
And he's saying that will never happen with Eston, but I'm guessing that if I saw it missing on the Eston, I shouldn't really be upset.
No, you shouldn't.
No, be very upset.
Well, this is not confused with it and with the other.
Right.
With
It's
or
just-
without the new, you can
It's
still
just-
recognize
That's right.
as being the same.
Yeah.
So is this a thing that really only happens with an iota? Because he doesn't mention like the
He only said
the-
Eston is
Yeah.
the only one.
yeah, but there's other news in
Oh,
here.
there's other verbs that will have a movable new without the preceding letter being an iota. Yes.
Okay, but like, for example, the first person plural, we are, what's wrong with me? S men,
Esmond.
Esmond, yeah.
S men, you won't get rid of that.
No,
Okay,
it's only in third singular and third plural. I think
That
that
is in
happens.
Oh,
question.
third plural
Okay.
also.
Yeah.
Taston.
Mhm. Hasten.
okay.
Oh,
Okay,
no,
all
tell,
right.
sorry.
8:14.
8:14. New. Or shoot.
Ain.
New?
No,
Ain.
ain.
Sorry, I'm stuck. All right. The past tense of Aston is ain. He, she, it was. It occurs frequently, and you should memorize it now.
Remember back in chapter 6 when he gave us that really neat exegetical insight about John 1:1.
Mhm.
That has that word in it, kai theos ein ha logos. That word means what he, she, or it was.
Okay.
It's a very common word. It's the past tense of is.
Okay.
Wow.
I think I'll read a little bit now. We're almost done with the chapter.
Mhm.
8:15, predicate nominative. The second function of the nominative case is the predicate nominative. Footnote 5. Grammatically, the predicate is the verb and everything that follows it. It is what is left when you remove the subject and its modifiers. So the second function of the nominative case is the predicate nominative. Just as it is in English, a noun that follows a me is not receiving the action from the verb, but rather is telling you something about the subject. Footnote 6. The verb to be is called an equative verb in that it draws an equal sign between the subject and the predicate nominative. That's one term for it. Another term you might run across is called copulative verb. It couples the subject and the predicate nominative.
Okay.
But if you think of it as an equal sign, the subject is the predicate nominative. Ha theos estin kurios, God is Lord. Or the one we had in chapter 6. Let me find it. That uses was instead of is. Kai theos ein ha logos. Theos is the predicate nominative. Ha logos is the subject.
So the order doesn't have to
So
be like
in,
that.
in this particular example that is given here, Estin could be written just Esti Kurios, right?
Yeah, without the movable new?
Yeah,
Yes,
but they've added it without it
Mhm.
being necessary for pronunciation.
right.
So
It's kind of arbitrary. There's no hard and fast rule about when they have it and when they don't have it. It does make it easier to pronounce if the next word begins with a vowel, but
so
it's not always that way.
if we wrote this, curios,
Kurios estin
Estin
ha theos.
Theos.
Yeah,
Would it mean something different?
well, a little bit different possibly. Remember that
Does it change which?
exegetical insight. He said the presence,
Yeah, I mean, does it change the subject? That's, I'm saying, looking at this Greek,
no,
what
the,
makes it the subject?
the ha, the
Okay,
article.
all right,
The
So-
kurios is the predicate nominative.
yes,
The theos is the subject because
Right,
of the ha
because
there.
of the ha, okay.
But if you put kurios at the front of the sentence and ha theos at the end, it's emphasizing kurios. That's what the whole
God
point.
is the Lord.
The
I
Yeah.
mean,
Lord is
Lord, the
Lord is God.
Lord is God.
Oh, God.
I'm
It's
I'm
just
gonna-
it's emphasizing his lordship.
But we'd still need to translate into the English as
Yeah.
God is Lord, wouldn't we?
Yes, English, yes.
It would still need to be God is Lord in the English.
Mhm. Because in English, we almost always have the subject first and the predicate nominative
So would
after
we
the verb.
emphasize Lord by saying God is the Lord? Is that I'm
Uh,
just trying to get my head wrapped around what, because it's important to understand what makes it the subject in the Greek.
well, you may not have remember what he explained
Yeah,
in
I
this.
remember some of that.
The fact that the subject is after the ain is only recognized because it's got the article ha.
Right.
But theos is in front because of stressing the essence or quality of it, is how he put it here. Its emphatic position stresses its essence or quality. What God was, the Word was.
Oh, and back in chapter 6, you're talking
That's
about.
in chapter 6, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
The last part of 8:15
Yeah.
helps me.
does it?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it kind of lays out how to.
Why don't you read that then, please?
I'm not sure where we left off.
Right after footnote 6 on the first paragraph. Therefore, the word is,
Okay, therefore, the word is in the nominative case and not the accusative.
that's because of the verb estin does not take a direct object. It takes a predicate nominative.
So notice in this sentence, both the first and last words are in the nominative case. Context will make clear which is the subject and which is the predicate. This sentence could also be written kurios estin o theos, the article also indicating the subject. However, there is an order of precedence. If the word is a pronoun, it's probably the subject. If it is an articular noun or proper name, it's probably the subject. If there's a pronoun and also an articular noun or proper name, the pronoun is probably the subject.
I put a box around that because I think this is a very important thing that we'll be coming back to from
Yeah,
time to time.
Yeah.
I've been looking, that helped me because I keep looking for the article. Or, an articular noun.
Yeah.
So often in English,
Mhm.
we tend to have that as the subject.
Yeah.
Not necessarily,
these
and it
rules
could
make
occur
sense.
anywhere, it could occur later.
These rules make sense.
Yes,
we
this
shouldn't-
makes sense. to
We
me.
shouldn't always expect the Greek to be in this order, though.
No,
That's what
there
he said.
is a
No, right.
regular order. He mentions that somewhere, not in this chapter, I don't think, but very rarely do you find the typical order used.
Subject, predicate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
English has a typical order: subject, verb, predicate.
So is the Greek for this equative typically subject, predicate?
I don't know that I can say
Yeah, okay.
normally.
Yeah, all right.
There are reasons for things to be put in the front. And so that might change the word order.
I went all the way back. I guess what I'm holding out hope for is found on page 18 and 19.
Okay.
It said these 319 words. Let me kind of give us a little bit of help with that. Account for 114,069 word occurrences, or 80.57% of the total word count. So I'm just trying to zero in on the ones that are more common.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah, and he's giving us the more
and I think we're
common
gonna find a
ones.
lot of those are pronouns.
Yeah, there's a lot of pronouns. Okay, you want to finish up, Ed, there on
Translation 8:16.
Mhm.
When you are dividing your sentences into sections, make sure to separate the prepositional phrase and any other dependent clause as distinct group, as a distinct group, and see what word the preposition modifies. It will often be a verb. Most prepositional phrases are adverbial.
That's a good point.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Logos,
ergatai,
ergatai, ace, cosmo.
good.
The word goes into the world.
Okay, now into the world is a prepositional phrase, right?
Yes.
Now it modifies the verb goes. How does it go? Or where does it go? Into the world. It's not modifying the word. That would make it an adjectival prepositional phrase. Does that make?
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's very much like English, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, you want to read the last one?
8:17.
Mhm.
Greek regularly drops the article in a prepositional phrase. If it fits the context, you may put it back in. O logos,
Ergatai,
ergatai, eis cosmo. The word goes into the world.
yeah, you supplied the in the prepositional phrase. That's one place where you're allowed to
Hmm.
add the article if it's not there in Greek. All right, I'm going to skip this next section, phrasing. You can read it on your own. I haven't learned how to do it, and I think he teaches that in intermediate Greek. Well, I'll leave it for later. And then he's got a very nice graphical illustration of prepositions.
Yes. I
It
like
leads
that.
to spatial relationships. And then he's got the vocabulary. I'm going to leave that for you to learn on your own, but I will have pretty soon another vocabulary quiz. We'll do it orally like we did before. So please work on those vocabulary words. And I circled another thing that was interesting, footnote 18 on page 77, talking about the word meta. The object of meta with the genitive will usually be a person or a personal concept. Meta with the genitive means with. And you might remember he mentioned the word soon also means with. Another preposition, soon, is used when the object is impersonal. Metaphysics is a discussion in Aristotle that comes after his discussion of physics. Ta, meta, ta, physika. So soon and meta both mean with if meta is used with the genitive. But meta talks about a person and soon talks about things. All right, so I've given you the handout for my work on chapter 8. You can get started on, in addition to learning the vocabulary, get started on the first part of the translation. That means the parsing and the warm-up. And we'll share that next week. All right, we've got just a few minutes left, I believe. Is that right? Wait a minute. No, we're overtime.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Well, this handout, "A Mighty Fortresses of God," it's not a Greek, very Greek treasure, but it's something that I thought was interesting. It connects verses with the different phrases in the hymn. And also the last page is a story behind the hymn.
One of my favorites.
Mine too.
Hey, maybe I'll do it this Sunday over at 4%.
Okay.
So we didn't finish some of this, are we just going?
No, I skipped reading that on
Yeah.
phrasing.
Right,
I think that ought to be in second year Greek.
okay,
And the vocabulary, I'm assigning that for you to learn on your own.
oh, yeah, yeah,
I intend to keep coming, but I'm probably skirting toward that audit stage.
Okay,
I keep trying and I'm falling backward.
all right. Well, I'll help you as
I'm not
much
there
as you
yet.
want.
I don't give up easy. I don't care if I'm behind. That part doesn't bother me. But at the same time, I don't want to. You guys are pretty close together. You before, yeah. So, but I just don't want to give up.
Should I-
I just
I'm
don't.
glad.
I get lost, and I've had some things go on. So,
Right. Well,